officially started?
I think we have.
Okay.
Officially.
Jason,
Officially.
this is number 2.
Number 2.
We managed to get through the first one without killing each other, so you know.
I've got
Christian made it home in one piece.
I've got a 6 foot longer reach than you, and I still can't get over the table. You know.
All right. So our wonderful producer here, Rory, has been messing around today with a new intro for the Hoonatics. We haven't gone live with the first one yet because we're going to put the first 3 up in one go. So this is a bit of Back to the Future, and that's a funny one for Rory, our producer. You'll hear about that later in a future podcast. I said that twice. Anyway, he's been messing around with our new intro, but I haven't even heard it yet, and he's done 3 different versions.
I didn't even know we were going to hear it.
Right now, we're going to hear the intro.
Let me get into my listening position.
In 3 versions, and you and I are going to pick the official one that we're going to use.
I'm officially relaxed and in my listening position.
So I'd say in the count of 3, Roy, I'll get Jason's booming voice to give you a count of 3, and then you can roll them.
1, 2, 3. Oh, I like that one. That was good.
There's this tape and stuff spewing out of the reel-to-reel player over there, and smoke coming out of the machine. Oh, here we go.
So I don't know why that wasn't the thing.
Get in, buckle up, and come for a ride with the Hoonatics. Cars, bikes, and anything else with an engine in it. Let's go.
Bit theatrical. All right.
I'm keeping score.
Number 2.
Get in, buckle up, and come for a ride with the Hoonatics. Cars, bikes, and anything else with an engine in it. Let's go.
Don't mind that one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, number 3.
Get in, buckle up, and come for a ride with the Hoonatics. Cars, bikes, and anything else with an engine in it. Let's go.
Ooh. What do you reckon? I think I've just picked mine.
Well, it does actually remind me of something. And when I say this next bit to you, because I've committed it to memory, let's see if it has that sort of feel. Ready? See if I can remember it. Drag racing, Adelaide International Raceway. $6 get your tyre smoking action as the best from around the town. Go head to head to find the meanest machine in town. Kids under 16 free. Be there.
I was going to say, if you don't have "be there" on the end of it.
Was that all right? That was bad, was it? It kind of reminded me of that, didn't it?
So 1, 2 or 3, what do you reckon?
I'm in for number 2. What are you in for?
I like number 3.
Well, I was going for number 3 as close. I'm happy to compromise and pull back to 30.
I'm just looking over there at your notes. Not bad and close.
Yeah. So, but you know, as the voiceover guy that I am, throwing my voice out there for ANZ Home Loans, like I'm happy to say, let's go with 3.
Okay. Well, and I don't even know if Rory's actually sort of finished doing them. He's sort of threw them together this afternoon, and for him to throw something together.
So not 1, not 2, but 3.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No, not 2.
3 it is.
3 it is. All right. So I say, let's play it again and let's start the podcast officially, and then talk about what we're actually talking about tonight.
But hang on, before you do, when you come in after the podcast, for approximately 10 to 15 seconds of your first talking, you must be in your best radio voice. All right?
Okay.
Go.
Okay.
Roll it.
Yeah.
Roll it.
Get in, buckle up, and come for a ride with the Hoonatics. Cars, bikes, and anything else with an engine in it. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Hoonatic. No.
Mark, it was a very good choice of yours to use that voice, but you've just got to practice it a little bit more.
This is the hour we'll be playing all the most boring songs. Anyway, what are we talking about? And hang on, before we get into that, what have you been up to in your garage at home?
I have been up in my garage. We're going to refer to my garage as my brain and what I've been doing in my life.
So it's empty?
Yeah, down to Sellex Beach for the historic bike races, down on the beach, belting around. We'll talk more about that later on. I've been in wrecking yards pulling out parts, which is my absolute favourite thing to do in the world. Absolutely favourite.
Give them a plug.
No, I love it. No, we'll talk about them again in another podcast. But wrecking yards are like, yoga and surfing for automotive people.
Well, it is yoga if you've got to pull the parts off yourself.
Oh, it is.
Especially underneath the dashboard. So
I've been driving my Chrysler around town, creating mayhem and carbofluorochlorins and all that stuff coming out the exhaust. The all Chrysler day here. And this weekend, I'm looking forward to going to the brand new, and I've got to do this correctly, Superloop 500 here in Adelaide. So, and you're involved with that as well. I'm involved with that.
I am.
Adelaide's hopping. What have you been doing?
Ooh, I think last time we talked I was going to the Superbikes at Phillip Island. That was awesome. Our rider Nick came second our ride. We'll talk about him a bit later because we're not talking about bikes tonight. But I am wearing my Supercars media shirt, and partially because of what we're talking about tonight, but partially because I came straight from doing something today for Supercars, so I'm still wearing the shirt. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to be a pit cameraman and do some other roles at a few Supercars rounds over the last few years. And this weekend, in the 37-degree heat on Saturday and Sunday, I'll be wearing a full fire suit with the other pit cameramen, running around chasing cars, doing pit stops and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
So, no, it's heaps of fun. I mean, being a car nerd and running around the pits, like, you know, in the thick of it is cool, you know, and to be paid to do that's even cooler. So, yeah, I couldn't ask for it. I mean, you know, I've done plenty of other camera work, and that compared to the most fun job I've done in the past, scrapbooking DVD, is right up there. But yeah, so like what I wanted to chat to you and some guests that we've got coming in tonight.
I spied them out there earlier on.
Is the racing industry and people that work in it, people that race in it, and stuff like that, and just have a chat with some cool guys.
Well, right now, Superloop, the V8 show, has rolled into town. Now we've got 2 races here in Adelaide, with South Australia. We've got one at Tailem Bend, that fantastic new venue up there, which just goes gangbusters. But the old perennial favourite is, and I'll just call it what it is, the old Adelaide Formula 1 track. It was Clipsal, it's now Superloop, and it's just going from strength to strength. And I'm going to say on and off the track, because even coming here today, you would have felt the vibe of the V8 drivers around, and there's more people, the fringes on. Adelaide is hopping, and it's not even Mad March, is it?
Oh, yeah, and it is... It's always a time of year I say to people, like, I'm like, Adelaide's all right, but if you're going to come to Adelaide, come in March.
Oh,
because that's when it's happening. So,
yeah.
And funnily enough, you mentioned Clipsal. I think it was last year when it was the OTR Super Sprint.
Yes. When
it finally changed from being Clipsal, and it's almost like Clipsal's. I've forgotten the word for it now, but it's just always going to be Clipsal to people. And last year, people were sort of having bets on saying, I bet you accidentally say Clipsal, like commentators and stuff like that.
And they did
tonight.
Yeah.
$5 for every time you accidentally say Clipsal.
Ooh, okay.
Because it's like saying, have you got any GoPro footage? It might not be a GoPro, but that's that buzzword, you know, now.
And $10 if you call me on it.
$10. You give me... Oh, so... But I'll have to call you on it.
Team working it out.
Anyway, yeah, I know the gears were turning there.
Yeah.
All right, so I think...
You have had a long day, haven't you?
I have. And so rather than hearing me talk about boring crap here...
Let's talk about car racing tonight. Let's just talk about car racing in general, here in Adelaide, around Australia, everywhere else in between, big, small, whatever you want. Let's talk about that tonight.
All right, so I think let's pause here. Let our studio producer here reset, and we'll bring in our guests.
Yes.
Rather than having them come in and trip over cables and stuff like that.
Do we click the board?
So we'll have a quick glass of the house water.
A couple of fruit chocks, plug.
And bring in our guests.
All right, done.
Should I be like, I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
Rock us in.
I want to see Reynolds or someone do that.
We've already seen him. What do I do with these?
Are we rolling? Are we recording?
Started rolling,
okay,
so whenever you want to kick off.
We are rolling.
Assume the mannequin position. Is that right?
Mannequins don't talk, Jason.
They do in the movie Mannequin.
I used to find them very attractive when I worked at Myers.
Jesus.
And suddenly conversation stops.
And on that note,
we're looking for a mannequin for the stupid store.
We could have a mannequin in here, actually.
No.
Couldn't we?
Okay, we have our guests in here now, Jason.
Yeah,
so it's time to get serious.
Let's behave. Let's do the right thing.
All right, so I'm going to wind back the clock a bit in my life because there's 2 people sitting in the studio here one who I've been around his family for a while, and the other I used to work with. So to my right here, we have Mr. Ben Nightingale, who works in some racing team.
Applause?
Yeah, little pause.
Thank you.
And across the table, we have the young Max Vidau. I always get the pronunciation of your surname wrong, even though I've known your family for 20 million years. How do you pronounce it?
Vidau.
Vidau, there you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, because people like Vidau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had all of it.
Actually, move the mic up close to your mouth, I reckon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just to hide your face, you know.
Yeah.
So, Jason, we've got these two gentlemen in here because we're talking a bit about racing and the industry and stuff like that. So, I think without further ado, I'm going to get you to talk to Max a little bit because I know about Max's past.
Are you ready, Max?
Oh, I think so.
Ready?
And the other two guys who've known me for a long time go, he's not ready.
No,
he's not ready.
I think the pertinent question would be is what got you into cars in the first place? So I'm going to open with that first question.
Yeah, okay. Well, and I'm going to steal it as it goes towards you and just drag it in and just twist it around a bit because we know you like cars, we know you like racing, we know you've been in it. You're a young guy, right? And you got all your world at your feet before you mess up and you look like us three. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way straight away. Where are you at right now? What are you racing right now?
Last year I raced a GT3 Cup challenge with Sonic Motor Racing Services, but this year we haven't pronounced anything yet, but hopefully we will soon. In
your time so far, what was the first car you drove and what is the last car you drove?
The first car I ever drove on a racetrack was a Hyundai XL.
Oh, quality.
Yeah, so she was fast.
Yeah.
And,
how old were you?
I was 14.
Mate, I'm actually going to butt in there because I know the story behind this too.
Yeah.
So Max's dad, Mike, who is a drag racer, and has a very cool drag car.
Shame on him for giving you a Hyundai to start with.
He told me because Max's background before that was karting,
right?
And we'll talk about that in a second. But so Mike's like, so we took Max out to Mallar. He's never driven a manual car before, and he went out and he was like faster than everyone else out on track.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it just happens, doesn't it? Hey?
Yeah, just had a bit of fun,
instinctive.
You know? Yeah. So the XL at 14 would have seemed like a rocket ship compared to a go-kart, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it felt pretty quick compared to a go-kart, just getting up to speed, but I was used to driving around with my old man in his Supra and stuff like that, so I didn't really feel that fast.
Oh, he's dobbing his dad into speeding. He's dobbing. That's covert speeding, dobbing in right there. So now go to the end, right? What is the last race car you drove? Could have been 3 days ago, 24 hours ago. What was the last car you drove?
The last car I drove was the Porsche car.
Yeah.
So the Bob Jane one. So yeah.
In your mind now, think back to when you hopped into the Hyundai versus the Porsche now. You know, the racing is the racing. The line is the line, yeah? But think about the speed. Just describe for us what a GT3 is actually like. For us that have never driven in one, what are they actually like?
When you first get in them, they feel very fast. So obviously, I went from the Hyundai to the Formula Ford into the Porsche, and as soon as I jumped in the Porsche, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And still, when I drive out of the pits, it still sinks my head back into the seat, so it's awesome.
Well, they say, you know, horsepower is how fast you hit the wall and torque is how far you move the wall. Talk us through the horsepower and the torque.
That's if you're driving, Jason.
Yeah. I drive by the Braille technique, by the way. I'm brilliant at demolition derby.
It's true, he drove me here.
Yeah.
It's true.
I third in my first demolition and only demolition derby on debut, then retired. Anyway, that's another story, all right? Talk us through the horsepower and the torque of the Porsche. Because I'm just holding on this because Porsche is something a lot of people look at, but they never actually really get to drive. They see them, right? Talk us through the horsepower, you know, that off the line, but the torque, the push of the torque as well.
Yeah, it doesn't really have that much torque, but once you get up in the rev range, she really pulls. So compared to the new generation car, they've put a bit more torque into the newer ones, but yeah, they do bog off the line if you don't get it right. So you got to fry the clutch a little bit to get off the line.
I'm going to ask the really important question and make a good point here as well. So Max, you're 17.
Yep.
And you're driving a Porsche worth how much?
Probably close to $300,000.
$300,000. And most of his 17-year-old mates are driving like, you know, AU Falcons and beat up pieces of crap like that.
Yeah, all my Adelaide mates, yeah.
So not a bad effort. So,
but are you still Maxi from the block? Do you still remember the hood you grew up in? You know, do you still?
Yeah, for sure. I still drive a BA Falcon every day.
See,
his mum still washes his clothes for him.
Yeah, but she doesn't have to do the underwear anymore because that's clean. He's used to the speed and the power. Okay, most memorable race car you've ever hopped in and driven? It doesn't matter what it was to what shape it takes. What was the most memorable one?
It would have to be the Porsche. It's just so fast compared to everything else I've driven.
You are a predictable 17-year-old. You really are. What is the oldest race car you've driven?
Would be a HQ in the HQ series.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Well, they're getting up there in value now as well.
Yeah, they are. So drove the 4 hour with Joel Heinrich. So that was a bit of fun.
Right. Yeah, okay. Well, you probably were made in the back of one of those.
Let's before we go too deep into Max's history as well, let's cross the table here and have a chat with old mate.
I can't wait to ask him exactly the same question.
Just quickly before we start that, what were you two doing at the age of 17? I know, sure as hell for me, it wasn't racing a Porsche.
I was an apprentice mechanic driving a Mini. No, hang on, Mini. I think I had a 351 XD Fairmont gear.
Ooh,
when I was 17.
That's not bad.
Yeah, back when LPG was cheap.
I had a 202 powered UC Tirana hatchback, which I still have actually.
You did too.
Yeah, I still got it.
I was full back for South Adelaide under 18, and if you came near me, I would have just smacked you in the head.
Boom.
Right? So take your cars and use them to get away from
driving your footballs through the goals.
Yeah. Goat's blood just before a football game.
Angry young man.
He did some good stuff.
And
you didn't take it orally either.
This is what I have to deal with on a weekly basis now.
Godspeed, boxer.
Ben,
I know you from back in the days when we were both working for Express Publications.
Max, this is called War Story time, right?
This is
fine times indeed.
What were you doing?
Back in my day.
It's starting to feel a little bit like that, Jace. I got to be honest. It's a long time ago.
2008.
That's when it ended. That's when it was all
2006.
over. So I started at Express Publications.
When were you born, Max? What were you?
2001.
I know. Can you believe? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Thanks.
We're all going to pop into the next room for a nap. Yeah. So yeah,
I love a nap. How good
well, quickly before we get started, your role this weekend here in Adelaide, Superloop's on. What are you doing? Who are you associated with?
Okay, so I'm the PR media manager for Shell V-Power Racing Team.
Oh, cool.
DJR Team Penske. So
outstanding.
Indeed.
And you've just mentioned some big names there, and Penske being the big one.
There's
for
a couple
the
of
internationals
pretty
there.
solid individuals involved in the team. Yeah.
Give us the 20 words or less. Who is DJR Penske, and what did they do last year?
Okay, so the DJR is Dick Johnson Racing, and Team Penske, obviously Roger Penske in the United States. So
we'll give you more than 20 words, by the way.
I'm going to need it.
Yeah.
I think Dick Johnson's a name that most of the viewers and listeners would know. Legend of Australian motorsport, 5-time Australian Touring Car Champion, 3-time Bathurst 1000 winner. Team owner for the last nearly 4 decades, nearly 40 years now.
Aussie legend, yeah.
Yeah, just Australian sporting legend, full stop. Roger Penske, just a titan of business and motorsport globally. Penske Corporation is a company that employs nearly 60,000 people worldwide. It's turning over nearly $26 billion US per year. And it's largely in trucks and automotive retail, so selling new and used cars.
We actually have Penske here doing a lot of transport.
Yes.
And they use the Great Western trucks.
Yeah.
And that's an American truck.
Yes. So we have Western Star, MAN, which are the German trucks. There's a variety of MTU and Detroit Diesel, so engines as well.
The Western Star is the one I want to highlight because when you look at it here on the street in Adelaide, it's exactly what you would see in Philadelphia. The visuals, it's like a standardised McDonald's style brand. You know what you're going to get, and he's making inroads here in Australia on his terms, not, we've got to localise the brand. No, the brand works. It works. Just roll it out.
Well,
I'll tell you what,
the Western Star catchprise is serious trucks, and that's exactly what
I'm going to butt in here, though, because Jason's turning this into a Penske actually as well, a Penske PR campaign.
I'm a Penske PR
we're actually
campaign pusher.
We're going down a tangent already.
We're here to talk about racing.
Yeah. Well, I'll just quickly I'll pull it all back to racing. So Team Penske is the racing arm of the Penske Corporation, and it's basically the marketing division of Penske Trucks and Penske Transportation Group. So we go motor racing. That promotes our brands and our business to a global audience. So we've got an IndyCar team, and a NASCAR team, and now an IMSA sports car team in the United States, with factory associations with Ford in NASCAR, Chevrolet in IndyCar, Honda in IMSA, and obviously supercars in Australia. We've got the Ford Mustang debuting this weekend, which is pretty cool too.
Can I just ask you a serious question, not a stupid question, and it may come off as a stupid question, but you and I had a good discussion in the car on the lead up here. You look at events like 24 Hours of Lemons, right? A real fun, easygoing, social media happy. Is there any reason why someone like Penske wouldn't get involved with something like that?
It's one of those ones where what we do, racing.
You don't have to answer this one, because Jason does ask stupid questions.
No. Look, I take the point.
Yeah.
And so Max and I were chatting about it just out here before we walked into the studio. None of the people involved in motorsport in Australia and what we do, and all the way to the top in supercars, would be there if we didn't love motorsport.
Yes.
You need to have a love for it,
yep,
because frankly, no one's getting paid enough to do the hours that we do and the work that goes in to making that happen and getting those cars on the track. And lots of guys in our team, lots of guys in all of the teams love going out, and they go racing themselves when they're not supercars racing and preparing.
We saw that
cars
earlier on today. They're all hopping on their ego scooters.
Well, yeah, we saw 3 different supercars drivers jumping onto those scooters on the way.
I'm happy to shake hands with you on $5 now that one of them's going to be in the paper tomorrow with a broken arm or a bruised hip or something like that. You know,
fingers crossed it's not my guy.
Hang on a second, mate. You know what? If you pay me the right amount of money, you point me in the right direction, I'll take one out for you. All right.
This is a bit where Jason's tangents go every which way, but the actual subject. So
I can have him done.
No, he's a good guy.
I'm just going to get the gaff tape out for Jason.
Did you like that, Max?
So to go back,
you might be able to fund your year in racing. All right, he's got Penske's number.
It's a big guy too.
I know, we could with two of us.
Got some, yeah. No.
So Ben, getting back to you and what you do.
Yeah.
So give me a week in the life of at the moment. Obviously at this time of year, it's the beginning of the year, and it's all chaos for you because everything's happening. But during a V8 season and before and after an event and stuff like that, what do you actually do for the team, and who do you liaise with?
Yeah, right. Okay, so my role within the team it's pretty multifaceted in that my title is media PR manager, but I also have oversight of the logistical side of the business. Whilst we'll let Jace drown over there.
He just inhaled one of his really good ideas.
Oh God!
Keep going. We've got free airspace here without Jason in the studio. This is awesome.
It's clear air. So I'm fielding calls from media. I'm making calls to media to seed stories. I'm liaising with all of our internal guys to make sure that everybody's getting what they need, and if we're trying to do something media-wise that all the people involved need to know what's going on, where we need to be. I manage all the scheduling of the drivers and the team, and that includes all of the travel and comm logistics and all those things too, right down to actually physically putting the little booklet together that everybody carries at the event. And then, there's the wonderful world of social media, and I'm really fortunate to have a great young fella, Jackson Stubbs, working for us now, who's the coordinator, so there's all these, and then I'm working with the commercial department, so the guys that are selling our sponsorship, liaising with all of our partners. So it's basically, my job involves ensuring that our stories are heard and our stories are told as best we can possibly tell them. All the stories we want to be told, they're told in the way we want them to be told. And that our partners who come on board with the team and frankly spend a lot of money to be a part of the team are getting value for their money. And that's there's a million different ways we offer that.
And I guess a big part of what you do, I've seen so many different aspects of motor racing and motor races and motorbike races and stuff like that, attempting to get sponsorship and stuff like that. And without sounding rude, a lot of them are very clueless to the fact of what sponsorship entails.
For some money.
No, yeah. Oh, can you get me a fuel card? Yeah, but no, that's the thing. So having sponsors on board and obviously having a big naming right fuel company. I mean, it's branded all over the car, which is great, but you still have to do the right thing by the sponsors and represent their brands properly. But I guess the other thing is you're working with the drivers, and that was my next question. So you've got two very different drivers in your team there, and you sort of help them with their media requirements and stuff like that. They're both pretty well spoken, but I'm sure that's a lot of work you've done with them and previous media guys have worked with.
I'm pretty fortunate to have come to the team. This is my third season with Shell V-Power Racing now. That Fabian Coulthard and Scott McLaughlin are both really polished, experienced operators within the media space. So Fabian in particular is incredibly polished, and he's so good to work with in that space. And Scott, you got to keep reminding yourself, Scott's only 25. He just won his first championship. The only way from here is up.
So he's about 10 years older than Max.
Yeah, little less, but not far off, exactly. So they were basically plug and play for me, which was fantastic, and we've done bits and pieces, but...
If you think about the great Dick Johnson, right, he was never polished, he was natural.
Yeah.
And you look at someone like Daniel Ricciardo with this smile. He doesn't even have to talk. He just has his brand as his smile. Do you run the risk with some of these drivers, as polished and as good as they are, that they are sterile?
100%.
And the personality is not there?
We did that with Scott. 100% we did it. In 2017, Scott's first year with the team, we have what we call the Penske way. It's a way we operate. It's a way of presenting yourself to the world, and you'll note if you come to the event, you'll look into our garage. Everybody's wearing long pants. All the shirts are tucked in. The floors are constantly swept and immaculate.
For 30, 40 years.
Correct. Our cars, the livery on our car, we cop a lot of grief in regard to the look of our cars because we don't change the livery dramatically year on year. And that's something that's relatively unusual in supercars, but it's a Penske thing.
Dick along that line didn't really change. The only major change he did was go from blue to green.
Yeah, correct. And then when Shell came on board, he went to red and then stayed there. Yeah, exactly. So in 17, it wasn't necessarily a strategy that we implemented specifically, but in 2017, Scott probably lost some of himself in regards to the way he dealt with the media. And he tried to clean himself up a little too much, and as a result, he actually started to feel uncomfortable when he did that kind of stuff. So last year, at the start of last year, we made a concerted effort for him to just go, right, I'm going to loosen it back up. I'm going to go back to what... He's not going to be dropping F-bombs at the podium presentation like he did a few years ago, but he's going to loosen it back up. And I think everybody responds to that because he's the guy... The good thing you got, though, I got to give it to both Fabs and Scotty. The guys you see on screen are the guys that they are. They're legit. They're real. And you don't get two versions of the same person, which is an unusual thing.
And you're 100% right, too. I mean, because what I do with the pit camera work, we're in and out with the reporters, and most of the time we've got a bit of dead air time before we're actually on air with the guys, and they're just chatting away with the reporters, and they're just themselves.
Yeah.
The V8 supercars that have evolved out of touring cars, there's probably been only really, on one hand, great commentary moments. And one of them was when Richard stood up there and went, "You're all a pack of assholes." Right? That sticks in everybody's mind. The next one was probably when that guy from across the pond turned around and said, "Mate, I just plucked first and gave it a bit of a jandle." And these unique things that come out.
Totally.
You can be as polished as you want, but if you don't have character, people look at you and go, "Look, I know it's a reality show because it's real, but you're fake." And there are some drivers, I could tell you right now, I won't say their names, I could look at them and go, "You're an awesome driver, you're incredible. Put the white suit on because you're the Stig. We don't need to hear from you."
I think the thing that I've found that's awesome about supercars, though, and I guess you probably agree with me, is compared to a lot of other motorsports, these guys, they'll go through their career and retire and stuff like that, and a lot of them are prime and ready to jump into, you know, motorsport presenting, commentary positions and stuff like that, because they've got the personality for it. They've had the training.
Yeah, but, you know, Mark, I would say, as somebody who watches these people, I could critique and say out of 10, you may be lucky to have one.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Jace. I'd probably counter it though. So I obviously deal with a lot of journalists, and the feedback we consistently get, and I'm not just talking about my guys. Before I worked for Penske, I was the media manager for supercars for the sport. So I was dealing with all the teams and all the drivers and promoting the sport as a whole rather than my team as an entity on its own. The feedback you get from sports journalists is that that supercars drivers are the most approachable, easy to deal with, engaging sporting personalities that they deal with across all sports in the country. You know, and the key thing about that, I suppose, is when you look at other sports, you look at rugby league, you look at I'm not in rugby league territory right now, but you look at AFL, you look at cricket, the pool of players or participants in that sport, even at the highest levels, is in the hundreds of people.
Yeah.
In supercars, it's 26 blokes.
So if you look at that, then take an analysis of who's made it through to the media as a commentator post-racing career, okay? Let's talk AFL. Only the quirky, the unique, the personality-laden players in AFL, in swimming, in cycling, in tennis. John McEnroe's a commentator. All he did was sit there and made the beep monitor go off, and now he's the biggest commentator. Connors. You look at those 20-plus drivers and you have to say, right, we need a commentator for the future. Are you listening to this, Max?
I am.
Yeah,
so
good.
Now we're talking
you've
about...
got to have that personality.
Totally. And the smart guys, so the guys that are driving right now and are smart and are looking to the future and are looking at their future beyond motorsport and beyond being in the driver's seat will know that, will understand that, and will be looking for that. So two great examples, the most recent examples, Garth Tander and Michael Caruso, two blokes that have just stepped out of the full-time seats through no fault of their own, have both just parachuted straight into gigs as commentators and colour commentators with Channel 10 for their motorsport coverage. So they're both going to be on RPM this year. Craig Lowndes, same thing. He's dropped into the Fox Sports commentary, and that was a no-brainer. The bloke's been the most popular driver in the sport for 20 years.
But it is a very different realm, right? And Mark works and has worked very closely with one of the Port Adelaide football players, Warren Treadray. On the ground, Warren was a pretty good footballer. He wasn't bad. He wasn't the best of the best. But off on camera, he is one of the best, you know, media commentators. I guess when we're talking about car racing and so forth, car racing, when we look at this 17-year-old next to us, it's born into you, it's bred into you, it comes through as a passion. Yeah. When you step away from the steering wheel and you step to the microphone, like Ivan Capelli did when he came to the Adelaide Motorsport Festival as a commentator, you know, he has a personality and it just comes through. He's so excited about it. I think if I was to make a general comment, I would say the only people that find their way into the commentary box post-racing are those people that are the entertainers.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I can't argue with that. But what you often find is that guys, and it goes back to what we were just saying before, guys, you know, you as a professional racing car driver at any level, you've got to present a particular version of yourself quite often to deal with sponsors and deal with the requirements of the sport and all of those things that, yeah, you can go, I want more personality, but it's to a point, and then it's not okay. When you're unencumbered by those things, so the end of your career and you're no longer wearing the colours on your race suit and all of those things, all of us,
the clock's ticking down.
Yeah, correct. You can get a little more colourful, you can get a little more outspoken. And
just before you go, that is our segue back into racing.
Okay, well, no, I want to talk careers because that's what I really wanted to get these guys in for. So we're going on tangents.
Can you give me 10 more seconds?
10 more seconds, all right.
At the end of the race, you got 2 laps to go. It's like the career. The career's ticked down. You know it's going to end. The race is going to end. And the same mentality comes out if you watch a good racing driver. They don't go, oh, right, well, I'm in 13th place. I'm happy with this. The clock's ticking down.
I know another Max story about this one. Was it something to do with coming down the main straight at Phillip Island?
And you just kind of go, I've got X amount of time left. I'm going for it. I'm going to leave my mark. So, Max, straight back across to you before we get into the career question. 2 or 3 laps down, tell us a race where you just went, you know what, I'm going for it.
I'm going to butt in here. So, yeah, that exact race. Explain what happened at Phillip Island. Was it your last round in Formula Ford?
Yeah, so it was...
Did you like the way we did that?
Yeah, it was pretty smooth. So going in the last round of Formula Ford, I had a big points gap, so a pretty comfortable lead. And I could have wrapped it up in race 1, but unfortunately came 3rd instead of 2nd. So I wasn't really complaining too much about that. I was just wanting to get the championship over with. And the next one, I was just fighting for the lead, not aggressive at all, and turned into Honda, and randomly a car appeared next to me and then took me out, broke most of the car, and just drove around the last 3 laps trying to get some points, but didn't get any points out of it. So ended up having Garth Tander, my dad, about 5 people from Sonic welding the car back up, putting the car back together, ready for the last race. And started off 20th and started just cutting through the field. I only needed to finish 15th, but I think I got to 15th by the first corner.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't happy, so I kept on going. So, and it actually started to rain, and I was super confident there in the rain in the Formula Ford. I remember testing the test day before that was 3 seconds quicker than anyone in my team in the wet.
So you thought, I'm going for it.
Yeah, I just went for it.
It's Max's day.
I remember going around the outside of someone, turn 1 in the wet, and then up the inside of someone, turn 2 on the same lap. So it was definitely a busy race, and ended up 3rd from 20th.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
So let's wind back, and this is a bit of a this is your life for these guys we've got in here. So we've talked about that. So Max, tell me, you're born into the car guy thing because your dad. So tell us about your dad first. Who is he, and how do I know him, and how do people know him from that orange car?
Most people know my old man through his business and drag racing. So he builds automatic transmissions, and I reckon he's pretty good at it. But so I grew up around the drag strip and always wanted.
This is the bit where you give him a plug.
So he owns MV Automatics up in Blackwood.
There you go.
And so I grew up around the racetrack, up at the workshop all the time. I grew up wanting to race a drag car and run MV Automatics, and that was my main goal. And then I jumped in a go-kart and went alright, and my goal eventually changed.
This is how modest Max is. So how old were you when you started karting, and tell us about some of the racing you did, because you did pretty well.
Yeah, so I started dirt karts. I had a go-kart when I was 3 years old that I used to drive around the workshop in, which was a bit of fun, but started actually racing go-karts at 7 years old at Angus Dirt Kart Club, so a bit different to everyone else starting in dirt. But I had a bit of fun with that, and then.
But the best drivers of the world, and I'd bet I'd eat a hat on this bet. The best drivers in the world come from a slippery surface before they transition to a sticky surface, and some of the best rally drivers in the world come from countries that have got snow aplenty. So you're cutting your teeth on dirt in go-karting. You'll get into scenarios like the wet weather driving you described, and you kind of go, got this.
Yeah.
Your confidence is already there, isn't it? Yeah,
so the way you actually drive a dirt kart is pretty much you don't use the brake. You just oversteer it into the corner, and that's how you slow down. And then just have it straight on the exit. So have
you applied that technique to the Porsche?
No, not in the Porsche, no. But it definitely worked in the Formula Ford, the last few corners in the wet. You just chuck it in and it sticks. Give
us a bit of your history about what championships you've raced in from the start and up until getting into the Porsche.
Yep. So I moved up to junior lights still in the dirt kart. Moved up to junior lights, won a state title in that, and I'm a very big kid, so moved up to junior heavies when I was 12, then won 3 state titles in that and a national title, and then from there we were looking into sprint cars, but obviously you have to be 16 to race a 410, so that idea quickly went out the window, and we actually went to bitumen karts. So had a bit of success in that, but nothing crazy. But once I jumped in an XL, we were straight on the pace, and it was an easy way to go.
One of the downfalls, and I know this is true is with a bigger driver. How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
How much do you weigh?
At the moment, I'm 86 kilos.
Right. Okay. So you're 6'4". You know, you're 86 kilos. Ben, when you're small, and you're a small driver, a car's got to come in on weight, right?
Yeah.
And when the driver weighs a large amount, the weight is in the driver. When the weight is in the car, you can actually move the weight around in the car to position it, to balance the car better. So as much as, Max, you're heading in the right direction, if you were about a foot smaller and about 30 kilos lighter, right, things would be very different for you, yeah?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, it'd be a challenge, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Mark Webber issue, isn't it? He had the same problem.
Yeah.
Well, and from a negative, let's go straight to a positive, okay? Because this is stuff that people know about, but it's subliminal. Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo have done more for Australian racing reputations than any Australian before. Maybe Sir Jack Brabham, but that was a long time prior to that. So a guy like you is actually in the best position because the way has been paved by these drivers with these incredible outlooks, and they may not win the most races, but they are good at what they do, Ben, and they are very good from a media point of view and very good from a branding point of view.
Yeah, they're good ambassadors. Yeah, and you know, that's a bit of a wanky catch term these days, ambassador, but they are that in the best sense of the word, and that's what you need to be when you're a young guy coming through. In my opinion, you've got to. It's difficult. It's going to be difficult to make a name for yourself. Obviously, you've got to have talent, which you've got, but then you've got to have something else as well.
We could probably help him with that.
I think we might be able to, but but you've got to be able to stand out from the crowd. Correct. And well, you're you're literally a head above everyone else, so that's a start. But
and Valentino Rossi, let's just face it, Valentino Rossi has that face. He has this comedic face. Right? He had his time on the bike. He was very good, but he still has that comedic face. They call him the Doctor for whatever reason, but you look at him and he's interesting. Ricciardo, you look at him, he's interesting. The guys can pedal, he can drive. Schumacher just stood there and just smirked at you, goes, I'm going to beat you no matter what.
But that was part of his shtick. That was his thing.
That's it.
And that probably explains a lot of why people are always wondering why race car drivers randomly rock up to the season with like stupid moustaches and stuff like that, and it's because people talk about it.
Of course I do.
Yeah, I mean, they're having a bit of fun with it, and people go, "Oh yeah, check out old mate's moustache." And
well, you remember the haircut that Vettel turned up to in Melbourne last year? Do you remember that haircut?
Do you remember the haircut Dean Canto shows up with every year?
Yeah, that's not by choice though, is it, Jason? That's just unfair.
But it's a look.
Dino, we love you.
We love you, Dino, and for that we're going to talk about Jason's 17 chins. Yeah. Anyway. Which you do.
I'm looking forward to seeing Dean this weekend. He's racing.
If he's got an issue with me, he can get a box and come and talk to me.
Dean is an awesome guy. Now, Max, I'm going to go back to you on this because I want to talk to you a bit more about what's coming up for you.
Yes.
Hopefully. You said you can't really talk, which is fair enough because confidential stuff like that.
Do you want to do it in a descriptive dance?
No.
Interpretive dance. I like that. That's good.
He doesn't. I read his mind already.
We'll clear the bench.
So, Max, just tell us about Sonic and how you got into Sonic and what you did with them and what you did last year and what you're hoping to do in the future. Where are you hoping to go from there? So start off with your Formula Ford stuff.
Yeah, so first, obviously the XL. My old man's known Mark Percat for a while, so he helped us with that and where to go, and that's how I got the test day with Sonic.
And for those at home, Mark Percat's Nick Percat's dad, supercar driver. So yep. So got me the opportunity and did the first year of State Series, and Mick thought I was good enough for some reason to chuck me straight into the national round for my first race. So I was actually 1 point off coming third in that round, but decided to spin it off the track. So it wasn't ideal, but yeah.
You show both sides of the sponsorship. That's still a good investment.
Yeah. Smart.
So that year was a super strong year. I think we won, 90% of the races at least, and put it on pole in every State Series round. So it was good. And then we went to some national rounds. Leanne Tander was my teammate that year, so that was a bit of fun. And actually beat her in a qualifying at Wakefield Park. So, but then that wasn't actually official. It got changed around. But I remember.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, I remember Leanne being very mad at herself, but I did out-qualify her. So, but yeah, so then did that. Won the State Series. did alright in the National Series and then moved up to National for the next year. And yeah, managed to win it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you have a career that's on a rise, but you are on the Hoonatics podcast, so it's time to get a bit stupid and ask you some stupid questions, all right? It's just the way it is, all right? And you'll learn a lot from us.
Jason's good at the stupid questions, yep.
You're on the start line. What are some of the intimidation things you do to the other drivers? Or you just stay in your own game, or do you do a bit of this, you know what I mean, and stuff like that? What do you do?
No, I kind of just do my thing. And
no, you don't do the yawn and go, oh.
No.
The classic one is walking up to, like, the guy you can't stand, the guy you hate, just walking straight him, good luck, mate. Have a good race. You know, give him the big handshake.
Yeah.
Gets in their head.
And saying, but you qualified lower than me, didn't you? I can't remember. Oh, that's right. I'm 2, you're 4. Okay. See you in corner 1.
No, that's movie stuff, Jace. No. That doesn't actually happen.
We haven't had a good smack talker in Australian motorsport for a long time, like a really good one, like a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson smack talker. Do you know what I mean? You could be that guy. You could be that guy.
I'm probably not big enough to be quite the
You're
Rock.
6'4", dude.
You just need to get some muscle on the front, pal. You're good.
Yeah.
What's been said to you? Has anybody done the intimidation to you?
No one's really tried to intimidate me. But,
just looked at you, giving you the stare, giving you the wink.
Oh, I've had a lot of short people try to give me the stare. I just kind of look at them like, "What are you doing, mate?"
You just look over them.
Yeah.
Sorry. That would be is somebody talking to me. Oh, hello. It's not a bad way to be. Well, okay. Where to now for you? What's your next race? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Nothing's official for this year, but I would want to go the Porsche route.
Yep.
So the original goal was obviously supercars being so big, but being with Sonic, it was an obvious way to go with the Porsches.
Yep.
And that can shoot me overseas, or it can bring me back into supercars. So,
well, these two will sit in amazement. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you next, right? But I'm going to give you some advice. I'm going to give you some advice on how to stand out as a driver, okay? A friend of mine, anybody can look this guy up, his name's Dominic Panazzolo, and he was playing for Texas Tech in NFL in America as a footballer. Comes from Flagstaff Hill, just up the back over here. Very good family friend of ours. And he's nominated for the draft this year, the NFL draft.
If Jason tells you to run down the start-finish straight and naked, don't do it. Yeah.
Gives you good media. Wouldn't that be right?
The kind of media I want, pal.
So, Dominic wanted to stand out. He wanted to make himself be known, and he did something in the great state of Texas that put him onto ESPN. And this was a college footballer. He punted a football, because he's an Aussie rules guy, he punt this thing in the middle of next week, grabbed the shotgun off of his mate, and then did it like he was pulling a clay target and brought the ball down with a shotgun. Okay? I'm not going to say you're going to do that with a car. But what I think you should do is have
That's very on brand for Texas, isn't it?
Well, it is. And it just took off to the point where there was NFL guys replicating it, Ben, because they could see the virality. Is that the word we're looking for? Virality of that?
Yes. Yeah.
And they actually copied it, but he did it first. Okay? And he's done a couple of other things as well. So when I look at your father and what your father has in regards to a workshop, I think that you have some opportunities in Porsche, no doubt. Go that direction. But to see a Porsche Cup driver in full Porsche Cup gear, right, at a drag strip, right, running an incredibly quick time in a car, right, through a series of videos, I think that would lend a lot to your credibility and your flexibility as a driver. Following on the back of that, and I know your father has some good contacts in this, a little bit of a drive north from here is a place called Lake Gardner, which is the biggest salt lake racing place on the face of the earth. Popping yourself into a vehicle that does 200 miles per hour and videoing it actually lends some pretty good credibility to the CV as well. Think outside the box, and you never know where that box gets delivered.
Taking it. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I think there's a bit of a watch this space as well. Having spoken to Max's dad, there might be a few antics, because I know Mike, his dad, wants to get back behind the seat of behind the wheel of a car and do some stuff. So there's been talk of drag challenge and all sorts of cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think, Max, talking about careers and stuff like that, I mean, obviously you're driving, but you're also doing an apprenticeship as a mechanic.
Yeah.
So how does that how does it all fit together for you? I mean, you're doing an apprenticeship like a normal mechanic, but you're working for Sonic.
Yeah. So I'm a third-year mechanic at the moment, apprentice. So, but I currently live and work over at Sonic Motor Racing Services. So, yeah, it's a bit different living on my own and stuff like that, but it's great working with Sonic. They help out all the time, whatever I need, so it's great.
Mate, it's a good thing to do, having something like that.
And talking careers-wise as well, because that's one thing I want to talk to you about, Ben. Like, we've known each other since back in 2006 or so with Street Commodores magazines and Express. So how did you get into the magazine industry for a starting point? I mean, what led you to be in that job?
Well, I was one of those guys that went through school, always been a car guy, like always. I came home from hospital in a Papaya Orange LX hatchback. That was Dad's car at the time. And we went through a series of, always been a Holden family, so went through a series of, Dad had a bright yellow...
Dick is aware of that, isn't he?
DJ started in Holdens too, funnily enough, but he likes to say you got to start at the bottom. We had a bright yellow VK police chaser, the big, those canary yellow VKs, and then we went through a VN 5 litre, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, always been a car guy. And... knew that I wanted to do something that involved cars in my career, and I had in my head, I was stuck on, I wanted to be an engineer, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, I wanted to be involved with racing, I wanted to go down that path. Problem being, I was really crap at maths and really crap at science, like terrible. Physics,
it's like he's telling
chemistry,
my life story.
Mathematics were not my bag, but funnily enough, words were, and it ended up being, so I ended up going from moving my goalposts, and really late in the game, like I'm talking like the end of year 11, I got my mathematics and science results and they were a disaster, and I went, okay, I got to change tack here, what am I going to do? And funnily enough, my English and my history and my humanities subjects were really strong, and so I started going
home economics.
I love to cook. I am the cook at home, I'm just saying that. And so I started thinking about what's possible and what I can do post school, and journalism all of a sudden in my head went ding, 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 ding. Maybe I could try that, thinking that I'd go down the path of university, getting my qualifications, going and doing a cadetship at a newspaper, because you could do that back then when they existed, and all of those things, and grafting and working away until I got into my goal. Back then, my dream job was working at either Street Machine, Motor, or Wheels magazine. It was one of those three. And I'm nearing the end of my university degree. I did a Bachelor of Arts Communications Journalism in Sydney, and right near the tail end of that, so we're talking back half of 03, 04. I used to be a member of an online forum. Remember those? StreetCommodores.com.
What's a forum?
Yeah, it was like Facebook before Facebook, but it was only about that specific topic. So I was a member of this online forum called StreetCommodores.com.
I actually don't even know how to explain to him.
It's actually a really difficult thing to explain. Are you a member of groups on Facebook? Where there's very specific niche subjects where people create a group. Kind of like that, but you'd go to this website and there would be these...
And no matter what you said, you got hammered.
Social media is just the new version of the forum, isn't it? But it was itemised information, and it was just... They were treasure troves of
I'm going to
information.
melt his brain, really.
You know what?
There was no memes, there was no GIFs, there was no JPEGs. There
was no Snapchat.
There was nothing.
There were just words.
While you guys...
There weren't even emojis.
Oh, there you go. I was just about to step out and go and get our next guests for our next one, but they're here now, so I'll just...
So finish off your journalistic journey.
Yes. Anyway, on that forum, up pops a post, and it says, staff writer wanted, Street Commodores magazine. So I make a phone call, and a guy by the name of Jason Gray answers the phone. Now, Jace and Boxer, you both know Jason, sadly departed now, died a couple of years ago. Answers the phone, and Jace was an interesting character, larger than life, and the conversation was where he just quizzed me on my knowledge of Commodores, because it's a Commodore specific magazine.
You smashed him.
I knew all the answers. I knew the answers to all the questions, which was awesome. So we organised.
You would have actually said, he would have been welcoming Max, like please give me another question, please give me another question, make it hard, make it hard.
Yeah, it was.
How many screws hold the rear armrests in on a VB Commodore?
Yeah, it was that kind of stuff, and the differences between Group A manifolds and you know, things like that. Really train spottery stuff. And
you see how much of a nerds we are.
So Jace invited me over for an interview. So I drove over to.
So you didn't get the job even after all that?
No, that was the entry to actually him knowing that you had a level of knowledge that was required for the gig, and then he'd invite you over for an interview to see whether you're actually a decent person, decent bloke or not. So went over for the interview, and I had a 5-litre V8 LX hatch myself at that point. I was 19, and I rolled in, and I'm looking sharp as I'm wearing my, you know, my business shirt, and I've got it done up, and I've got some nice trousers on, and I've got my leather shoes. No, I was wearing chinos. Anyway, I walked in the door, and I got taken up to the CEO of Express Publications at the time, and his name's escaping me. Jace walks into the office, and Jason's in a Street Force polo shirt, which was like the enthusiast group that he sort of created that spun out of Street Commodores, which is where guys who had cool cars would get given a shirt at shows. And he was wearing tracky dacks and Nike Air trainers. So this is what my first impression, and a baseball cap. And he walked in and he looked me up and down, and he just went, and pardon my language, but he went, "What are you here for, a funeral or something? That's all a bit fancy." That was the first words that he spoke to me in person, and that was how I got introduced to Jason Gray. And then anyway, got the job. My first day on the job, we drove to Summernuts. I got picked up at my house by Ben Hosking, who, again, another guy Jason and Boxer knows.
The Beard Hosking.
That's it. Just got married, I saw recently. Congratulations, Ben.
Brown shoes with a blue suit.
So
wrong.
Oh, mate, that's the only way to fly. Come on. Benny picked me up. He picked me up in one of those bright aqua-coloured CV8 Monaros. Do you remember those? Back in 03, 04?
Yep.
And we road tripped to Summernuts, and that was my. So anyway, straight out of uni. Long story short, straight out of uni, boom, straight into a car magazine.
I can just see the playlist that Ben would have had would be like.
There was a lot of Pantera. There was a lot of Megadeth. There was Opeth. You remember?
Oh Jesus!
I could not believe that this was happening to me. But it was purely, and you'll know this too, Max. You'll learn this. Sometimes it's right place, right time, and things just happen. But you've got to get yourself there in the first place.
Like your mum and your dad, right place, right time, and then you're riding a go-kart around the shop, right? So consider yourself lucky.
So
all right,
great. Yeah.
So that
I forgot to tell you this was a comedy podcast. Yeah.
So that started. Was 5 years in the mag game for me.
What was one of your highlights? Give me one, because I can recall one of those
the mag
highlights.
days.
Yeah, one of those. I've well documented one of the highlights of your time at Street Commodores.
I know one of the lowlights, but I'm probably sitting a bit too close and punching distance.
Come on.
A date in late July 2008. Is that the one?
XR6 Turbo.
That. Wow, that's a good one. I think we can talk about that now.
Yeah, go on. Go quick.
That was the low light, you're right. And I'd forgotten
working
about
in magazines is the one glorious part about working in magazines is
press
you get
cars.
To drive a load of press cars.
Yeah. And so
it's very good.
It's
and some
fantastic.
of them are awesome, and some of them, Ben and myself, when we went to shoot a Street Commodores, we all had a drive. We went to the artist formerly known as Oran Park, and we had all the new E-Series HSVs, all with brand new tyres on them, and they all went back with canvas on the back.
The FPV range of Fords, and we got some good stuff back then, didn't we?
Well,
way too powerful cars.
Ben was driving an FPV XR6.
It's funny.
What was it? It was a Typhoon, wasn't it?
We'll get to that. The Oran Park thing you just mentioned, I was thinking about that since you asked me to come on.
You missed Oran Park, didn't you, Max?
Yeah, no.
Oran Park, mate.
Been on it in iRacing.
So good.
Oh, he's been on an iRacing.
That's cool. Have you done it?
No, I haven't. That's
cool.
Outstanding.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm going to talk about that as a very last thing as well.
Okay.
So
do they have a commentary box in iRacing?
They do.
Yeah, it's all the pit buildings there. Everything's there. It's fantastic.
You can go in instead of racing, you can be the commentator.
So there are guys that commentate on iRacing, 100%. Yeah.
Let's plan out the next few minutes of our conversation, because we will run out of time.
Please give me 20 seconds, because I wish to regale one of my highlights of my time with the said magazine group that
and
we're
then we'll
in.
come back to the low light.
And no, well, it might be your low light, but certainly the shining highlight of my time working with these two monkeys in Sydney. Right? And it didn't actually occur in Sydney. It actually occurred at the Murray Bridge Speedway.
This is going to be the longest 20 seconds of your life.
The Murray Bridge Speedway. Do you remember that?
That was a good night.
It was for me. Do you remember the bet that you and I had at the Murray Bridge Speedway with a certain VL Commodore, Street Commodores, versus a certain XF Falcon, Street Fords, and it was a bet to see which car would actually come first in the super sedans.
Super sedans or something,
do you remember
was
that?
It? Oh, mate, we're scraping the barrel
Max,
now.
This is called, forced forgetfulness. Right?
No, genuinely, mate. That's good. That's great recall.
Is it?
I do remember the night at the Speedway. I got to be honest and say I don't remember the bet, but I'm betting now.
Yeah, you turn to the camera
and
your final words to the camera were, "I gotta hate that guy." Is it coming back? Is it coming back?
That sounds appropriate.
Is it
sounds about right.
We had a bet, and I think it was a Chico roll or a bucket of chips, and it was on camera. And the XF, being the 250 crossflow, just
I should have known. And knowing what I know now, I would never have taken that bet.
Oh, you took it. You were neck to nuts.
3 litre Nissan versus 250 Crossflow. Never had a hope.
Just was a total flog box.
Never had a hope.
Let's keep rolling here because we are running out of time.
Do we want to go back to the Typhoon story or not?
Do you want me to tell it so it's like a...
Oh, well, you weren't there. I was there.
Well, I'll tell my...
Don't let the facts stand in the way of a good story. Just embellish.
I'll tell the story of what happened and then you can tell the aftermath. How about that?
I'll just throw in the one funny line I remember from the whole situation. But you tell us what happened.
Well, 20... So what was I at that point? 21, 22... FPV Typhoon, so turbocharged.
Brand new, Max, brand new.
Turbocharged Falcon straight 6, ridiculously powerful, 300 and something kilowatts, like great car, so fast. Anyway, we were going to do this epic DVD shoot the next day. So what we did was we threw the keys around the office and everybody took one home that night. So I'm in a share house at that point. I'm living with 4 mates. We're all going to a party somewhere that night. I can't remember what it was, but we're all dressed to the nines, like suited up. So I can't remember where we're going. I used to live near Oran Park. So there were some great roads around the back, and I'm on one of those roads and I look in the rear vision mirror and there's this black BMW in my rear vision mirror, and I'm like, this guy looks like he's on. So I put the boot down out of this roundabout. It's in Ingleburn in southwestern Sydney for those. And the Beamer's staying with me. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. And we're going up the hill, and then long story short is I ran out of talent and ended up putting the thing in the trees with 3 mates on board. And the car's dodo. Like it's over. It's dead.
This is the bit where I had my 2 cents.
Brand new FPV Typhoon. And I get out of the car and I'm pushing, like the car's on a down a ditch. I'm opening a door and climbing out, and I look up through the trees and no kidding, standing on the road next to a black BMW, bending over, looking down at me, Ian Luff. No kidding. Luffy was the bloke in the black Beamer.
One of the best, Australia's best all-round sporting car drivers.
Driver trainers, that's what he's known for.
Yeah.
And to be brutally honest, nobody ever wants to see anyone... you feel sorry for Ben at the time, because that's a pretty harsh thing to happen when you're working in that sort of role in that sort of age.
Nearly cost me my job, and rightly so. That was a big deal.
So if we just quickly recap, aspirations to be a journalist does not necessarily mean aspirations to be a driving god.
And you'll note that whenever there are magazine shootouts with cars or tyres or whatever, you use a racing driver. The journalists don't do the driver.
Right now, Dick Johnson's watching this going, do not let Ben drive the supercar.
No, I'm an old man in comparison now. But I want to know what your perspective of it is, because this is interesting to me now.
All I remember at the time was the initial phone conversation to the editor of Street Forwards magazine was something along the lines of,
JR.
I don't think it's too bad. It's just kind of scratched down the side.
Well, they dragged it out of the ditch, and it actually didn't look that bad.
I think Ben was probably just a bit in shock as of what had happened.
probably. But then when we went to look at it in the holding yard, it was rooted. And I'm like, it didn't look like this on the side of the road. I was convinced.
The guys in the holding yard had taken it for a run to finish it off properly.
Probably.
Max is smiling. He knows what it's all about, don't you, mate? If you're going to punish good. Is that right?
Have a bit of fun.
But unfortunately, as a result of that, Ford Australia at the time, and I can't remember who the person was then.
Yeah, I've forgotten her name, but I was... Because it was at that time that I started at Street Fords magazine, so I was the one that sort of had to try and patch up the relationship. And it was all good, like, because, you know, it's hard when you're in a Ford magazine. You can only have Ford press cars.
Yeah.
But like, let's move past all that, because we had some pretty awesome times in the magazine.
Absolutely, it was all
and got to go and got to meet some awesome
stuff,
car
great
owners,
times,
stuff like that. What was the point where you transitioned from magazines to V8 stuff?
Well, bit of a convoluted path, really, because my time at Express ended really suddenly, and it was there was a large group of us. GFC was taking its toll, was starting to bite. Hadn't actually happened yet, but funnily enough, aside, my son was born September 15, 2008, which was the day Lehman Brothers collapsed. 2 months before that, I walked into work at Express Publications, normal day, and walked out 20 minutes later with a pink slip and a cheque, and I was done. That was it. We were over, and there was about 25 or 30 of us that got the axe on the same day. It was just, my world was ending, you know. But again, another thing for young players, it's all about who you know. And so at that time, as editor, I'd gotten myself to editor of Street Commodores by that point, and I'd started a relationship with a guy by the name of Peter Champion, who now owns and had just bought HDT, which was Peter Brock's team, and road car brand, and was rebuilding it and reinventing it for the 21st century. And so we just had Cruise for Charity the weekend prior, which was the big event that we used to run, and I had one of their cars, one of their first vehicles, which was the VH Retro, I think it was then. And so they took the press cars off all the guys who got retrenched on that day. They said, we need your keys back, you're no longer an employee, you can't have the car. And I said, no, I'm not giving you the keys to this car back. It's a car given to me on a personal deal. There's no contract, there's no paperwork. Somebody's phone's ringing.
Is that yours?
It's a young bloke.
It's a young bloke.
Oh, no.
You remember that phone's on silent bit there? That's $20 line.
That Larry Perkins line, young bloke, cold
his grinder alert is going off.
Oh, it sounds like it, yes.
We won't use that bit.
Anyway, I called... So I had the car and I said, no, I'm not giving it back. So Michael Cowdrell was taking the keys to the cars. And I said, I'm not giving it back. Anyway, I called the general manager of HDT, Darren.
Did you run? Did you run?
No. I just said there's no... As soon as I said there's no...
behind your back? No.
As soon as I said there's no paperwork and nothing tying it to Express, it's been given to me as a personal favour. He went, yep, no problem. That was it. It's my problem. So I called a guy by the name of Darren Gillis, who was the general manager of HDT at the time, and I said, hey... you're not going to believe this. I've just been made redundant along with quite a few of my colleagues. I've got the car. I left him a voicemail. He didn't answer. I said, I've got the car. Let me know when you want it back. And I'd like to have a chat about any job opportunities you might have going.
That's actually a good brokering tool. I'll give you the car for a job.
Yeah, well, that wasn't what I had in mind. But Darren called me back and he went, bloody hell, mate, that's unbelievable. I can't, don't rush about the car. Hang on to it for a couple more days. Come see me when you're ready. I reckon we can chat.
Don't drive past Oran Park.
Yeah. And no, I'd settled down by then big time, a couple of years later. And anyway, went in to see Darren, drop the car off, and he offered me a job, which was fantastic. And it was ostensibly to do PR media-y, very, very early days of social media type stuff. So we're talking 08 here for HDT special vehicles. But I was also just the general shop hand, and I was the retail guy at their shop front in Sydney. And I did that for 2 years. there was a little. I'm getting ahead of myself. There was a little period in the middle actually where I had a bit of downtime, and I worked for Mark Johnson at Petters. Just doing runarounds, special parts deliveries and all that kind of stuff to keep the wolf from the door.
Just back on the HDT thing though, I think that you personally could probably be accredited quite heavily with the rise of the large diameter replica wheel. Is that right?
Oh, look, they were getting on. They'd started the process, so the
Aero was the first one, wasn't it?
They did the Ermsha, which was on the VC and the VH first.
Yes,
and that
right.
was what was on that car, which I had at the time. But then, yeah, they parlayed into the Aero with the VK wheel, and we sold some of those.
And then the Walkinshaw wheel and stuff like that.
Well, the Walkinshaw wheel's a separate entity because that was a HSV wheel, but they did the Momo Star.
That's it, the Momo Star. Yep.
So yeah, I worked for those guys,
which has probably single-handedly kept that brand alive. Those three wheels, haven't they?
Mate. You'd be surprised at the level of demand for HDT original parts.
Yeah.
Like, so HDT's business nowadays would largely be in reproduction parts for the old cars, but out of the original moulds. So they've still got the HDT imprint in them and all that, and you're buying a genuine part.
Yeah, right.
So you can almost build, say, if you went and bought a VH or a VK nowadays, you can nearly, and many blokes do, build a VK Blue Meanie replica, as an example, using largely original parts or reproduction parts, right down to the seat fabric.
Yeah, far out. Well, my friend, your story has been an interesting one. My success at Murray Bridge is an epic one. Max, your time is only just beginning, and we're looking to watch your career with much focus. Remember your famous beginnings here at the podcast of Hoonatics. We always gladly accept corporate passes, don't we, Mark? Yep. Especially food, especially ones attached to food, all right? And when my 727 Trans and my Chrysler goes kaput, you put a good word in for the old man, all right?
I'll do that.
But,
did I say that right, Mark?
Yeah, and I guess wrapping things up, because we could be talking for hours.
We could,
it's always hard when you got old mates in the studio, but definitely more stuff in the future. Definitely want to speak to Max again, see how he's going with his career and stuff like that. On the video side of things, on the YouTube clips, we'll be putting overlay. We've got some good clips of Ben in the past, but
thanks, mate.
We're looking forward to this weekend, and it's been great having you guys in.
It'll be good fun. Definitely.
I'm looking forward to when you first run your first 9 or 8 at the drags, Maxie. All right? Okay? We'll come back and have a chat about Porsche v 8-second car.
I'll send it to you guys. It'll be on HoonTV.
And I think one thing all of the 3 old blokes at the table could say to Max is it's all about who you know.
Yeah.
Not what you know, or sometimes. So
absolutely.
I said this to you on the outside motorsport. It's easy to get in, and then it's quite hard to get out. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's it. That's a wrap.
Thanks,
Not
fellas.
a bad way. I was a lot better behaved this time, wasn't I?
Get in, buckle up, and come for a ride with the Hoonatics. Cars, bikes, and anything else with an engine in it. Let's go.